Hi guys, my name is Christine and I'm a dating, relationship and personal development coach, and today I'm talking about the secrets of happy couples. So what, is the secret sauce basically to having a very happy relationship with your spouse or your boyfriend or girlfriend? So one of the first things that is sort of like across the board important that you hear from couples a lot, especially ones that are happy and they've lasted the test of time. Like this is advice that I heard from my grandparents. One of them's passed away now, but this is something I heard from them about 5 or 6 years ago, and that was they never go to bed mad at each other. So that means they never go to bed without arguing it out basically, and getting and resolving things. So you don't want to go to bed mad. You don't want to go to you don't want to go to bed feeling resentful towards your partner. You want to get it out on the table. You want to it may be the case that you go to bed late. It may be the case that you go to bed at like 3 o'clock in the morning and you're going to be tired the next day. But it's worth it to get those issues out and to argue it out and to battle it out, I suppose you could say, to resolve the issue. So never go to bed mad at each other is like a piece of advice that I've heard, not just from my own grandparents, but from other places, other sources as well. I've heard a lot of other dating coaches talking about that kind of thing as well. So another thing is to never stop dating and making time for each other. So this is a big one, right? The way that you got your partner is how you keep your partner. So that means those little things that you used to do with each other at the beginning when you were just dating, when you only knew each other for like a few weeks, you have to keep on doing those sort of things, right? Now, of course, I know this is something I say a lot, but like obviously life gets in the way. So you get kids, you get more job responsibilities, you have a bigger house, you have a bigger place that you're living in, so you got a lot more chores to do, things like that. But you have to put in the time, you have to put in the effort to maintain that relationship. So it may be the case you might not be able to date each other as frequently as you did when you first started, especially if you met each other when you were pretty young and you didn't really have that many responsibilities, and now you do. Or or you may be in a very early relationship now, but I can guarantee it, more responsibilities are going to come and fall onto your lap eventually. So you got to carry on dating. So even though you might not be able to date each other as frequently, you should still be making time for each other. I think the minimum amount of time, the minimum amount of dates that you should have with each other is about 2 a month. Just try and stick to at least 2 a month, 2 dates, where you find time, you get a babysitter, whatever it may be. Do whatever you can basically to have that intimate time alone with your partner, where you do stuff that you did at the beginning of the relationship. So you go out, you go to movies, you go play bowling, whatever it may be that you did at the beginning. Because like I said, the way that you keep your partner is how you got your partner. So if you want to keep your partner, you've got to continue to treat them like you did at the beginning. And basically it's a really good thing because if you're in, let's say, in a relationship where perhaps the intimacy has gone a little bit, then one of the best ways you can get it back on track is if you start dating your wife or girlfriend or your boyfriend or husband again, so you can get back to that place where you're a lot more intimate. Now again, as time goes by, you might not be as intimate as you were at the very, very beginning, but you should at least be still active in that department, and it shouldn't be stagnant basically. And the best way to do that is if you keep on having romantic dates and you treat them like you did at the beginning. So think back on when you were like in the first stages of your relationship. You were touching each other all the time. You were obsessed with them basically. You'd always give them your presence. You wouldn't ignore them. If they said anything, you'd give them your full attention. That's what I'm talking about. It's not just the dates as well, but treating them like you did, like you did at the beginning of the relationship as well, being that kind of like obsessed with them still, which is really nice. So another thing is dealing with problems while they are small. This is something that I talked about recently in a different video about happy relationships. And, if it's better to deal with problems while they are small, while it's just a little annoyance, because if you let these things build and you let these things slide, so let's say, for example, you would really like it if your partner gave you a kiss when you came home from work. Let's say that's something that you would like. And that's something that they used to do, but perhaps maybe they've stopped doing it, right? And you come home and they're just ignoring you, or it seems like they're ignoring you, and they're not doing what they used to do, which was give you a kiss when you came home. So if that's something that's annoying you, then you need to, talk about it now, instead of waiting 5 years down the line until it, blows up into a massive argument, and you may not even remember why you were mad and why you felt resentful towards them. So tackle these little problems while they are still small, because it's much easier to have an argument about something when it's just happened, rather than when it's been repeatedly happening for months or years, and it's got to a point where you don't even remember why you're mad at them. You're just mad at them all the time because of these little things that you just didn't handle. And it's easy to do because, confrontation is hard. It's difficult to say to your partner, a problem that they're doing or something that you'd rather that they do, because you might not know how they're going to react, right? It could result in an argument, or it could be the fact that they just be like, oh, okay, I didn't know that was that important to you. I'll continue to do that. You don't know, basically. But, you have to be willing to do that and to face the confrontation, basically, because, if you don't, it's just going to be one of those things where you start resenting each other, and you don't want that because it's not nice, and you don't want to resent your partner because, you've got to spend a lot of time with this person, basically. And if you're in it for the long haul and you want to stay with them for forever, basically, which I think most people do when they get into a relationship, they see it as a long-term thing. Now, if you want to stick with this person and you want to be with each other until you're old, right, it's better to not resent them because you're going to be spending a lot of time with them. And a lot of people don't really consider that. They don't think, oh, I've got to spend another 50 years with this person. I better sort this out now. Otherwise, I could be angry for the next 50 years of my life and die of a heart attack or some other sort of blood pressure issue or something, right? Because being angry does cause, issues like that. And you don't want to be living in that kind of mental state where you're just resenting your partner all the time. It just makes common sense. If you're going to spend 50 years with a person, you better like them. And if they're doing stuff that you don't like, you better try and sort it out, okay? So another thing that's like a secret of happy couples is understanding your partner's communication style. So men and women, they tend to communicate in different ways. Men don't tend to communicate as much about their feelings and stuff, whereas women tend to, this is obviously very stereotypical, they tend to talk about their emotions a lot and want to talk about it. So the worst thing that you can do as a woman is to make your man talk to you in the way that you talked about your problems, right? Because more than likely he has a different style of communicating, has a different way of doing things, and you can't basically force a square into a round hole, basically. And it's the same for men. Don't assume that your woman communicates in the same way that you do. It's very unlikely that she does, because men and women are very different. They have different brains. There's studies of, about this across the board, and you can just tell by men and women's behavior, right? You can just tell when you just kind of observe people that men and women communicate in very different ways. Women, they chat along, they can jump from one subject to the other, and it's hard to keep track of what they're talking about sometimes. I remember this because I have a bit more of a masculine brain, and I was out for dinner with my wife and her parents, and my wife and her mum, they can chat along, they jump from one conversation to another, and me and my father-in-law are just looking at each other like, how do we keep track of what they're talking about, basically, So we're just sitting there confused, oh my god, I thought we was talking about this, but they've already moved on to, they're 5 subjects ahead, and we just couldn't catch up, basically. So, it's just women communicate different than men. It's just one of those things. So, if you are a man watching this, then let your woman talk to you. Let her tell you the story of what's happened, and pay attention. Put down the TV remote, put down the video game, whatever it is that you're doing, and give her your full presence, your full attention when she's talking to you. And with women, don't assume that he wants to talk about it. He may just want a solution. He may just want, a quick fix. So if your man comes up to you and he, seems like he's troubled by something, then just ask him if he would like your opinion on it, or if he would like to talk about it. Don't just assume he will want to talk about it, because most of the time he probably doesn't want to talk about it. He probably just wants to find a solution. Whereas women are the exact opposite. It's more likely that they want to talk about it than want a solution. So if you're a man watching this, ask her, would you like me to listen to this? Would you like me to listen? Would you want to talk about it? Or would you like my opinion? And would you like me to try and fix it for you? But most of the time, she probably just wants you to listen. So just ask her questions about it, inquire about it, find out how she's feeling, to ask her to tell you the whole story, and, you shouldn't be exhausted by that, basically, because I know a lot of people can be, this is something, that I've seen with my parents. My dad kind of gets a bit exhausted when my mum just wants to chat with him. And it's like, well, if you genuinely love your partner, if you really love her, you should be fascinated with her. You should be fascinated with everything that comes out of her mouth, basically. And, if you love her, you genuinely love her, you should be able to talk to her and listen to her for hours, right? And if you get bored and if you get sick of it, then maybe you're not with the right woman. That's just something that you might want to consider. Like, if you get bored of her talking, then you might not be with the right woman. You should be fascinated with her. You should be fascinated with her stories. And with, women, if you care about your men, don't make him talk about things if he doesn't want to talk about them. If he wants to talk about it, he will, right? He will say about it. He will tell you the story about it. But most of the time, he probably just wants a solution, or he may even he may not even want a solution from you. He may call up one of his guy friends or someone he admires and ask for their help. Or he may just work it out himself. He may just look online for a solution or something like that. Okay, so understanding your partner's communication style is really important. So obviously, there are differences there. Not all men are like that. Not all women are like what I've described. Some women are like me. They're a little bit more masculine, and they want a quick fix-it solution. And some men can have very feminine traits, and they may want to talk about it. Okay, and also there's no right or wrong in that, right? Just because there's a feminine man that wants to talk about his feelings doesn't make him less important than a man that doesn't care about that sort of thing, right? Okay, and vice versa for women as well. Like, we're all different, we're all human beings, we're all individual, we all have unique ways of dealing with things. It doesn't make anyone less of a man. It doesn't make a man less of a man if he wants to talk about his feelings. It doesn't make a woman less of a woman if she just wants a quick fix-it solution. It's just, people are just different, okay? So another secret to happy couples is they can depend on each other. So that means they hold their end of the bargain, whatever the bargain is. So if your partner is the one that always cooks, then you can guarantee it, there's always a meal, right? If you're the one that always cleans the house, then you always clean the house and they can always depend on you to clean the house, right? Whatever it may be, you stick to your roles. Obviously, you need to figure out what those roles are. You need to say, okay, so you need to basically sit down with your partner and say, okay, so who's going to do this? Who's going to do this chore? Who's going to do that chore? Right? And sticking to it and being that person that they can depend on and being that very stable person for them that they can rely on. Because they don't want to be picking up your half of the chores, right, basically. So, and you don't want to make your partner be the one that's picking up after you when it's stuff that you should have done yourself, okay? So those are my personal thoughts on the secrets of happy couples, what I've personally perceived, things that I'm implementing in my own marriage, and I'm in a very happy marriage. So, things to take on board. This is another video that you might want to come back to a few times, especially when you get into a relationship if you're not in one already. So thank you so much for watching. If you'd like coaching with me and you would like to get in touch with me personally, then please go to www.christineloveridge.com. Thank you so much for watching, and I shall talk to you again very soon. Goodbye.